Well, hello everyone.
Hello, hello.
Happy Wednesday and welcome to the real football fans of New Jersey.
Bow, bow, bow.
And must we say, let's go Giants. Katie, I don't know about you, but I'm on a high. I've been on a high since like what, 7:45 on Sunday. I'm feeling great and I'm so happy
Yeah,
right now.
well, we had two podcast shows last week. We were, of course, with you guys on Wednesday, the Real Football Fans of New Jersey, and then we were guests on Big Blue Avenue podcast on Thursday night with those guys. They're amazing, so much fun.
So much fun.
And I just, we were just all hoping and praying that we were going to like see each other next week and be doing our podcast next week. And we were all going to be, relaying good news that the Giants had won and celebrating the Giants' victory. And here we are. It feels so good. I can't wait to, again, discuss the New York Giants tonight. Only 8 teams left, and they are one of them. So it feels amazing. I'm very excited.
Feeling so good, just that, constant smile across your face, whether you're at work, you're talking to friends, family. There's just been an uptick in happiness this week. But we do have an entire football slate to talk to you guys about with tonight, alongside some drama loms in the housewives world. Would you expect anything less? So let's go ahead and get into it. We asked you guys to ask us questions this week. And we selected a handful that we really, really like here. As always, if you are watching us live on Facebook, YouTube, or Twitter right now, tell us your responses to these questions or keep asking us questions throughout the show tonight. So let's start with the first one. And this one is directed towards me. So will Bryce Young be better than Mac Jones, Tua Tagovailoa, and Jalen Hurts? This is a tough question. This is a very targeted question, a very, very tough one for sure. Listen, I gotta tell you, I think my answer is actually yes. I absolutely adore Bryce Young. Where I really like him is just, and listen, Tua is behind me. Absolutely love, adore Tua. I probably wouldn't put Jalen or Mac Jones on my wall, so that shows how much I really do love Tua. Bryce Young, out of the four of them, his awareness in the pocket is so admirable. His poise under pressure is way better than all three of them from college going into the NFL. So obviously we need to see Bryce in the NFL.
Mhm.
But I just absolutely love everything I see from this kid. It's funny, Katie, we talk about this all the time when we're talking about Eli Manning and the transition to Daniel Jones and kind of just how they're so similar and how they're so down to earth. And like a big play can happen, a really shitty play can happen. And they're just kind of like, you know, it is what it is, you move on. Bryce Young is very much the same. You get the emotion from him. You definitely see that get drawn out over time. But it's like if a bad play happened, he's in there next and he's ready to do it's nothing, it's not going to bring him down. He's going to move forward, he's very poised, and he's going to move on. Much like a huge play, he gets super excited and then he just back to work. He is very much driven in, his ability and his sport, and I think he is definitely one of the most talented ones out of this group right here. And all I can say is if he extends this talent into the NFL, I'm riding high that 4 Alabama quarterbacks are doing their thing at the professional level. We
Yeah.
have not seen that
No, it
in,
was years and years and years and years
I
of
want to say like 10 plus
any
years
bad
ago.
quarterbacks
Yeah.
in the league.
Yeah.
Um,
Alabama's known for sending linemen, both on the
and
offensive
running backs and wide receivers and D linemen and everybody except for the quarterback.
But the thing, if you look at like 10-year, Alabama's got a lot of offensive and defensive linemen in the league that have been in the league for years on end. And yes, you see your sparks on running back, wide receivers. You're going to always have that pop out guy, but they're known for they've got great lines year after year, but quarterbacks, it's not a thing. So listen, if he proves everyone right that he's going to do big things, we've got 4 people to look at in the coming years. And I'm very excited about that.
Well, I know this question was directed towards you, but what I quickly want to say is, and you're a good judge of it, obviously, because you watch Bryce Young and you're saying that you think he's going to be the best. Raw talent is raw talent, but I also hope then for his sake that the situation he ends up in with who he gets drafted by, who his coaching staff is, what kind of offense they run. I hope it works out for him because I just want to make a quick point of look at Trevor Lawrence year 1 with Urban Meyer and look at Trevor Lawrence year 2 with Doug Peterson. I think it's night and day. And I don't think it's because he was a rookie and now he's got a year under his belt. I truly think the difference maker we're seeing this year with Trevor Lawrence is the coaching. So I hope if Bryce Young is as good as you're saying, talent is talent. He'll be good. But I also hope for his sake that he lands in a good situation for him.
Yep, and I hope so as well, of course. All right. So, for both of us, how are you making through the week, knowing that the Giants play another playoff game on Saturday? So clearly we touched on our excitement a little bit earlier in the show so far, but I mean, Katie, I'm inching to Saturday.
I'm not necessarily racing to get there. I'm more so racing to get to the weekend of like, let's get through the work week and like have that over. But I'm enjoying every day as it comes because like, it's so funny. Like, I feel like when something bad happens, like let's use an example of like if the Giants were to lose a really bad game, it's almost like, and Caitlin, you would definitely know, like especially being on Twitter, it's almost like you want to like avoid social media.
Right.
You don't want to look at it. You don't want to read it. You're just going to shut it off and put it away until something else happens. Each day, I'm just enjoying the fact that the Giants are still in it because I can watch TV and hear about them. I can hear about them on the radio. I can read articles about them. I see them on social media. I'm watching the videos. I'm watching the fans getting pumped up all week. I'm like in no necessary rush to like, oh my God, like, can we just get to the game already? Right. I'm like embracing this moment of like each day, like we get to wake up and be like, the Giants are still in it. Like, listen, after Saturday, we might not be able to say that. So like, I'm enjoying being able to say that the Giants are still in it right now. And we're having this show and we're talking about the New York Football Giants in the playoffs still.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I'm inching towards Saturday because it's like you're almost like it was so great. And it's been so great this season. I'm like, another one. Just give me another game. Just give me I need the other game. They're so good. It's like, but yeah, I totally get what you're saying. Like it could be the end on Saturday and that sucks. But I still will definitely ride high on this entire season. That we had. So we actually just got a question in on YouTube. So should the Giants periodically line up a running back or tight end on the right side to help Neal out on Saturday? If I'm the Eagles, I'm really targeting Neal to drive penetration and get sacks. Listen, I think this is a very good point to raise right here. Obviously, Evan Neal has had a little bit of a tough time over on the right-hand side so far this season. He is a rookie, so I'm not going to be biased here and try to defend him because he is from Alabama. I'm mainly defending him because he is a rookie being put into basically a Giants offensive line that we've been building up year after year lately. And basically Dable going up to him being like, listen, this is it. We drafted you. You're the guy. You got to do what you have to do. They're not going to bench this kid. They're not going to do things like that. I actually think he showed some positivity near the end of last week's game. I was actually pretty impressed with what he was able to do near the end. I think he had a tough first half. But I was actually pretty impressed there. So I think it makes sense to do what you're saying. So I'm going to shout out, it was from Brian Poros there. I think it makes sense to line them up right over on that side and kind of figure it out. But
I think it makes sense because like you said, there's two halves to football, and Evan Neal, he did not play a perfect game, against the Minnesota Vikings. And I think this is a great question because let's note, like, it's only going to get tougher this weekend against the Philadelphia Eagles and that defense. And so, I think that's a great point. I'm more than okay with them lining up a running back or a tight end on that side to help him out because it's okay. Like, it's okay. Like, that's step number
Yeah.
one, is admitting when you need help.
I know.
Like,
No, it is.
like,
Yeah.
honestly, like, we're recognizing who the Philadelphia Eagles are. We're appreciating their defense, and it's not going to be easy. And if we need extra help on that side, then so be it. Like, that's what we got to do.
Mm-hmm. All righty. So obviously that question came in live. So if you guys have any questions, let us know. So moving on to the next one that we got prior to the show. Is this the toughest defense Brock Purdy is going to face thus far? So obviously Brock Purdy with the San Francisco 49ers. Yeah, I mean,
Yes.
I'm going to go with yes. It's the Dallas Cowboys. Yeah, because I'm looking at the past couple of games. You've got Seattle, you had Arizona, you got
People
Vegas.
have actually been making arguments that they feel as though Brock Purdy hasn't played a tough schedule yet. He hasn't played a tough defense yet. I think this is
let's bring it on for Sunday then.
Yeah, and it's funny that this question was asked because it's definitely points that I'm going to bring up later on in our game when we dissect each game. But yes, short and simple, this is going to be the toughest defense that Brock Purdy has had to face so far.
Absolutely. All right. And then next question. Who will Jacksonville's X factor be to potentially win this week? And we're ruling out Trevor Lawrence here. I honestly would probably rule him out anyway.
I think anytime you play Kansas City, like, you have to be able to go toe for toe with Patrick Mahomes in the passing game. So
yeah,
I do believe that it's going to have to be a big game from Trevor Lawrence. But like, Travis Etienne has been a freaking beast. I mean, the guy, however many games. Like, I was looking earlier tonight. It's like he's going 100 plus almost every game. So he's got to be the guy, especially if Trevor Lawrence, struggles or whatever, and we're not allowed to pick Trevor Lawrence as our answer. I'll go Travis Etienne.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with you on that one, and we'll get into it. Katie and I are going to dissect the games later again, like we did last week, and we'll continue doing it until the Super Bowl. And we'll get into it more, but you're right. You're absolutely correct. And I think they're going to rely on him a lot this week. So, but again, we'll get into it a little bit more later.
Yep.
That's it. Those are our questions.
Ooh, okay. Okay.
Yes. But again, obviously, if you are watching live on Facebook, YouTube, or Twitter right now, feel free to chime in, ask your questions. We are here. We will answer. We got you guys. Don't you worry.
Yes. Let's get into our big stories of the week in the world of football, though. We did this last week, and we've got more updates for you this week. We are going to be talking about the NFL coaching / GM tracker, what to know, any hirings, interviews, stuff like firing, stuff like that. So we have some updates for you. This first one is a big one. Jim Harbaugh has announced that he will remain as the head coach for the University of Michigan. So again, like, this is like back-to-back off season
every year.
His name is like on the top of everybody's list, but he's chilling in Michigan. I think one day he will come back, but it is not this off season.
I was feeling confident about that. I thought it was this year.
I thought you were feeling confident about him staying in Michigan.
No, I thought I was saying I had been hearing, obviously we hear this like every off season, but it was so much more, I feel, in the last couple of weeks. Like, I was like, well, definitely
such a good, and hats off to Jim Harbaugh, such a good Michigan football team this year, obviously. Right. But yeah, there's a little bit of unfinished business there. So sometimes, maybe that's playing a factor in his mind.
That's what I'm thinking.
We got to win over here. Like,
yeah,
I got to get the job done, and then I could, maybe move on.
Yeah, when I first read this news, that was the first thing that rung in my head. Like, he's itching for it. Yeah. So, and it is next. So I did clarify this. I know we were talking about it a couple weeks back. The 12-man playoff actually will not happen until next year. So I knew so it actually will be the full 2024 season. We'll introduce that. So that does give Jim Harbaugh more incentive to stay, because it's still technically a 4-man playoff next year. So Michigan, I don't know how TCU pulled all their guns against them, because it was pretty shitty in the final. Michigan can find themselves in the same spot next year. So
Yep. All right. Well, Arizona, they have a new GM. They have hired Tennessee exec Monty Ozenfort, and he is going to be the new general manager over there for the Cardinals. The Chargers, they fired offensive coordinator Joe Lombardi following their playoff collapse against Jacksonville. We're going to be talking about that shortly. Cleveland, this is, a longtime veteran name. They hired Jim Schwartz as their new defensive coordinator. I really like Jim Schwartz as a coordinator. Obviously, we saw his time as a head coach with the Detroit Lions. That did not work out. I think he's one of those guys where it's like, they get their crack at head coach, and some of these guys are just meant to be coordinators, and I think he's one of them.
And that's fine. We always talk about that, I feel. And it's like, listen, if you're thriving,
that's not like a slight against these guys.
No, if you're thriving as a coordinator, do it. We've seen some of the best people, I feel like, in the Giants go in and out, and they attempt to go be a head coach and it doesn't work. And you're just like, listen, you do what you're good at. And listen, I would rather be stuck with a phenomenal coordinator for X amount of years than, it just doesn't work out sometimes.
Well, Arizona, Carolina, Denver, and Houston are all in on the Sean Payton stakes. They will all be interviewing him for their head coach vacancies. Arizona has also requested to interview Brian Flores for head coach, former Miami Dolphin head coach. Denver is also interviewing former Stanford head coach David Shaw for their head coaching spot.
That's interesting, yeah.
We've his name also too. Like, I remember last offseason, his name was thrown into the mix, but I don't think it was ever like a serious candidate. Like he was going to come to the NFL. Sean McVay, he intends to return as the Rams head coach for next season. I know things were like the media was kind of putting that up in the air a little bit, but he does plan to be with the Rams next year. And then the Jets and offensive coordinator Mike LaFleur mutually parted ways after 2 seasons together.
Yeah, that's a no-brainer in my opinion. And I got to tell you, Katie, I feel like Rob Saleh is still on the chopping block. I know nothing has really come out, but
this is a guy, and I love Robert Saleh. And I don't know, like, is it just that the Jets suck and like people aren't going to find success there? Or is it that he is one of those guys that maybe is meant to be a defensive coordinator?
Yeah.
I think he has the personality. I think he is I think he's a player's coach. I think his players really like him. And I think he's got, a good vibe to him. But I don't know. I don't know what that situation is over there. But I'm a big Robert Saleh fan. I just, obviously not good over there.
Yeah, and there's definitely, some team. We're going to keep this tracker updated because I still think some teams haven't made decisions yet. And I don't think I don't think Black Monday was as big as a thing this year, and maybe it could come later on in life. So I just don't really know. But I think there's definitely still some things that we're going to have to keep on the tracker. But we'll definitely let you guys know, obviously. All right. Whew. Well, Katie, they do not call it wild card weekend for any particular reason, or not a reason, because it was wild indeed. So let's get into what happened this past weekend in the playoffs. So after being down 17-16 at halftime, Brock Purdy leads San Francisco 3 pass touchdowns, 1 rushing touchdown to beat Seattle 41-23. They came out in the second half and they were like, you know what? They flipped the double birds and they said, we are running all over you. Whew, that was a nice way to start things off. But a crazier game to follow. After throwing 4 interceptions, early interceptions, Jacksonville quarterback Trevor Lawrence threw for 4 touchdowns and had a rushing 2-point conversion to come back from a 27-point deficit to beat the Chargers 31-30. This is the largest comeback in franchise history and 3rd largest in playoff history.
I'm almost surprised it's only the 3rd largest comeback in playoff history. 27 points to come back from in a playoff game. That's a lot. Like, I don't know where the stat is But who's number one and who's number two? And when did these happen? That's just insane.
And I feel bad for the teams that lost those games full transparency, I fell asleep during this game. It was a 27-point deficit. I was done. I was out. And you know what, Katie? I don't feel as bad because I saw a video. I think it was on Instagram the other day. I saw a video of a Chargers fan who fell asleep because he was so confident and he had a couple beverages. This is like a viral video now. And someone woke him up in the last like couple plays of the game. And they were like, you should probably pay attention to this.
So that's terrible. You did fall.
I wouldn't fall asleep during my own game.
You did fall asleep. You were actually watching it more than I was because after those 4 interceptions, I was like, nah, I'm done.
I was still locked in.
27-0. I was like, I'm not going to watch it. Caitlin was definitely watching it more than I was. I turned it off. I did not turn it back on until 5 minutes left in the game when I saw it getting closer and closer. And then I knew for a fact Caitlin was sleeping, but I just kept texting her still all the updates, even though I knew she was snoozing. And I was like, she's going to wake up to this and like not believe what she is reading. So
literal fun fact for everyone. This is a true story because I literally fall asleep on my couch all the time. We all know I go to bed at 8 p.m. all the time. So yes, my boyfriend and I had gone out for the first game. So we had gone out, we ate food, had some drinks, came back. I'm locked in on the game. It's 27, but I'm like, you know what? I'm still watching it. So I end up falling asleep. He falls asleep simultaneously on the couch. I wake up delirious, like the news was on. I woke up and the news was on my TV. I go, oh, to your text messages, get your text. And I go, no effing way. And I hit my boyfriend and I go, wake up. I go, Jacksonville won. It's like, you know, when you wake up and you're like, where am I?
Yeah.
He 100% did that. No. And I was like, yes. And it's like at that moment, we're both on our phones, looking at it, watching everything.
Did this transpire?
No, like because it felt like we were sleeping for 5 minutes, and we just missed everything. And it was just like what? Where am I? No, what? It was truly unbelievable. Like I could not. Like I think you sent me like 4 or 5 texts in a row. I had to reread them waking up and I was like, this is not, no. And then pulling up the actual score on my phone, I was like, it is it. This is legitimately it. I couldn't. And I'm mad. I wish I saw that.
I feel like the Chargers are becoming this team that they're not living up to expectations. They have such a solid franchise quarterback, a top quarterback in the league that like teams just would kill for. And you've got the pieces and you've got a top running back and you've got 2 top wide receivers and you have an amazing defense. And it's just like, what the F is happening? They've got to put it together because, like I said, people would kill to have a roster like that.
Yeah, I think the most frustrating thing, and like obviously this is afterwards, like picking apart the game and trying to understand what happened that I didn't see, is that, you know, the Chargers, like you're up 27 points, like look at your run game. It's so impressive. Take advantage of that going into the later half of the game. Stop giving time to Trevor Lawrence to go back and throw 4 touchdowns on you guys and use the clock, eat it away, run that ball. You are so talented. Yes, Justin Herbert's talented, but
they thought they didn't have to, because I even said to you, I go, so do they rest Justin Herbert for next week? Like they probably just weren't even taking it to that. Like they clearly should have, but they weren't thinking
playoffs.
Like, well, we've got to chew up this clock.
No.
We're up 27-0.
Screw that. Honestly, the Chargers and every other NFL team that's up by a shit ton in the playoffs, take a script from Kirby Smart with Georgia. They were up by like 1,000 points on TCU. And guess what they kept doing in the fourth quarter? Scoring touchdowns.
I texted Caitlin and I was like, so they going to rest Justin Herbert for next week? Like, are they going to bench Trevor Lawrence? Like, that's where I thought the game was freaking.
I thought Trevor Lawrence was going to get benched. That was my biggest thing. And then I think if they scored like 1 or 2 more, and even just if it was a field goal, it was a touchdown, touchdown, I would have probably questioned the Justin Herbert thing. But Trevor Lawrence, I feel like, but listen, it clearly was a good decision because he came back and battled back. So wild and crazy. But listen, people, we've still got more games coming here on that. So a lot of people thought this was going to be a blowout, Buffalo versus Miami, but listen, they barely got by 34-31. I definitely went into that game. I think both of us looked at it kind of not a blowout for sure, but I thought Buffalo was going to take it. But I got to tell you, Katie, and I think I texted this to you. I am definitely nervous about this weekend going against Philadelphia. Like, I'm not like naive, like I understand, but I think something that like Cincinnati and Buffalo showed us this past weekend is that they are beatable and they have some pretty big flaws in their teams. And I think Buffalo, for the most part, against that Miami team with really nothing going for them right now, we saw a lot of hiccups.
Well, I want to give like a huge shout out, by the way, to Skylar Thompson.
Oh, 100%.
Tyler Huntley.
Yep, both of them.
Because they were not, meant to be there in those positions, and they freaking played their hearts out, and they gave their team what you can only ask for. Give us a fighting chance, and they both did that.
And they both fought.
Hats off to both of them.
Yeah, 100%. All right, the most exciting. Okay, no bias here. This is probably the most exciting game of the week. I got no bias. I think it was the most exciting game of the weekend.
Most offensively exciting game, I would say.
Yes. So the New York Giants upset the Minnesota Vikings 31-24 for their first playoff win in 11 years. Hell yeah. Daniel Jones threw for 301 yards, 2 pass touchdowns, and he was the game's leading rusher with 78 yards. So hell yeah. Like, let's up and go. What a game. Honestly, we were on our toes. Katie and I were sick to our stomach the entire game. It was a sweating. We were shaking. Katie, I gotta tell you, I almost threw up at one point. I'm just very nauseous. I didn't know what was going on.
It was like, obviously Minnesota opened with the ball and they drove down pretty easily and they scored right away. And I was like, oh shit.
Yeah.
But then when we had our opening drive and we easily got down the field and we scored, that was the second I knew we're going punch for punch, blow for blow. Like, we're just going to go back and forth and back and forth. So
yeah, that definitely made me a little nervous though, because I think we had spoken about that last week.
That we didn't want to get into a back and forth.
We didn't want to. And I didn't think that the Giants could actually sustain something like that. But I think it was really, our offensive trips down the field, we did take up so much time. It really did help us in the end. And a lot of the stuff, I think we didn't really make a lot of like mistakes offensively until like the third quarter. I think we saw a couple of like drives that didn't really pan out for us. I would say it was like 2 to 3 plays, maybe, Katie, in the whole game. And I was just like, wow, maybe we can at this point.
Well, we didn't want to get into a shootout. And me personally, what I didn't want Kirk Cousins to have the ball in his hand last, because I was afraid that if that was the case, like it was a couple of weeks ago when we played, that they would beat us. And the offense for the New York Giants, haven't said this much over the last several seasons. The offense carried the defense in this game.
Yeah.
But at the very end, when the defense had to step up and they had to shut down a final potential game-tying drive from Kirk Cousins and the Minnesota Vikings, they did it. So,
well, shout out to Xavier McKinney. He was all over Hawkinson was all over the Giants in that game. But it came down to that final pass, and shout out to Xavier McKinney. He really locked it down, and I think I literally peed my pants when that happened. All righty. We spoke about it before. Obviously, Baltimore quarterback Tyler Huntley had a great effort. But Cincinnati did go on to beat the Baltimore Ravens 24-17. It was this is really bad. It was a fumble in the end zone, basically right on the end. So that returned for 98 yards. So that really, really cost them.
That was the dagger. That clearly was the dagger. They won by 7.
Yeah.
And Baltimore was in the red zone about to score at the goal line. So that was 100% the difference in this game.
100%. And then, awful. But Dallas win.
This was the worst game of the weekend. You said this like before we started talking about it, being like, it was a great, like wild weekend of games. And honestly, they were all good games except for this one.
No, this game was trash. I 100% turned it off at halftime. Dallas beat Tampa Bay and they won 34-14. I don't even think that 31-14, excuse me. I don't even think Tampa showed up. Dak Prescott threw for 4 touchdowns and rushed for 1 himself. And listen, that's, big game for him right there, obviously. But, Tampa, like, where the hell were you? Like I said, I turned it off. I went to bed at halftime. I
guess this is very fitting for how the NFC South was and, like, who was going to represent them.
So maybe also too, like Dallas shouldn't be bragging that much because like kind of suck.
I do want to say that Tampa Bay has an average defense, maybe above average defense. And this was a really, really big game for Dak Prescott, who, like, when we dissected these games last week, I said Tampa Bay was going to win. And I was saying it was because Dak Prescott's been playing really poor football lately. To come out and throw for 4 touchdowns and also rush for 1, I mean, that was a monster performance from him.
100%.
And, gets his team the win, but also I feel like mentally gets him back on track of like, okay, like I'm good. I can do this. We can win games. Like I can help be the leader to win those games. Like, because he needed that for Dallas to continue to go on.
Mm-hmm. Well, I must say this is breaking news that Daniel Jones is the Nickelodeon MVP for the week. Their Nickelodeon most valuable player. So I literally,
what? Like I honestly, like I saw it on ESPN. I saw it here. I saw it there. A lot of people are, calling Daniel Jones the biggest winner of the weekend and saying
Katie, Nickelodeon just said it. So that's it. That's all that
on it, baby. It's done.
Yeah. And also, I was not the only person to turn it off and fall asleep at halftime. So I must say, I did that during a lot.
I guarantee you so many people did that.
Well, I did it a lot. This is my theory on it. I've actually only really done it during Thursday night games. Every time I would shut the TV off and go to bed during Thursday night game this year, one time it didn't happen. The other team would come back and win. That was like a thing. So I was like, maybe if I put those vibes into the air, Tampa Bay, no, they ended up losing worse. So screw you guys, because you screwed us clearly. So we have to keep with Dallas now. But hey, 3 NFC East teams still in the playoffs.
Yeah. Wow. 3 teams from one division making it into the divisional round for the first time since 1997.
Look at us.
Wow. Who would have thought?
Look at us.
But yeah, no, I'm like, I think that's great. Obviously, we were the division that sent the most teams to the playoffs, and they're all still standing. And
let's go.
Everybody in this is including the Washington Commanders played good football this season. And if you look across the board at all the divisions, like their 4th place team, Washington had the best 4th place record out of all the other 4th place teams. Like it was not an easy time playing in the NFC East. So it's good to see it,
never is.
Screw the other 2. All right. Well, anyways, let's get into our picks for this weekend for the divisional round. We're going to give the picks, and then later on in our game, we're really going to dissect these matchups. We'll pick MVPs. We'll do score predictions. We'll get into the juicier details, but this is still juicy itself. I'm ready to hear who you picked for these 4 games. Kick it off.
All right. I feel like there's always so much pressure when we pick these games.
I know.
But, all right, we've got 2 on Saturday, 2 on Sunday for you guys. So, first matchup. I'm going with Kansas City. Call me crazy and call it the hype, but I am going with the New York Giants on Saturday night as well against the Philadelphia Eagles. And to wrap it up on Sunday, I'm going with Buffalo and I'm going with the 49ers. I must say, out of all of these games, I feel like Buffalo-Cincinnati was my one that I really, really struggled with.
Yeah, you know what? I didn't think too much into that one because, like I told you guys, and I gave you a spoiler alert, I am going to ride with Buffalo all the way to the end. It was my preseason pick, and so it's going to stay that way. But had they not been, if I had not been going about it that route, that is, I think, is a very difficult game to pick between. It
Right.
really is. So, yeah. Anyways, with that being said, this weekend I am going with Kansas City, the New York Giants.
This is good. I feel like we're on the same page. It's good news.
Also, like you know, I'm like never biased, but I just don't even know if at this point, like I could say Philly's name in this playoffs.
No.
Like regular season, I was like, yeah, Philly's gonna beat us. Yeah, Philly's gonna beat us. But like, I don't know. Obviously, this Giants team is different. They're hot right now. I always think the Giants are a scary playoff team, regardless of what the regular season has.
I wouldn't want to play them.
What the seeds are like. I'm going on vibes on that one. And then rounding it out on Sunday, I am going with Buffalo, and I am going with the 49ers. So we are 4 for 4.
4 for 4. All right. Cool.
Yes.
It is definitely good. I think, honestly, I do think these games will be good. Obviously, we'll dive into them a little bit more later, but I'm ready, Katie, for another solid Saturday, Sunday.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. So like we said, we're going to pick apart these 4 games for you guys in a little bit, but let's go ahead and get into our big stories of the week in the world of housewives. Jen Shah and the Real Housewives of Salt Lake City. We got some updates for you here. So Jen Shah has been ordered to participate in a mental health treatment program as part of her probation following her prison release. So she will undergo 5 years of supervised release, which will include that treatment. She also has to continue to take any prescribed medications. She stated before that she's on antidepressants, unless otherwise instructed by a healthcare provider. Mm-hmm. Also, as well, Shah also seemed to confirm that she will have a sit-down interview with Andy Cohen this weekend. As for the rest of the Real Housewives of Salt Lake City cast, a report came out this week that the franchise will be put on pause and is facing a cast shakeup. So
I feel like this is every franchise lately.
I know. And I think it's just Bravo trying to save their own asses.
All of them, I honestly feel like all of them are struggling except for New Jersey.
Yeah. So here is, we have a source from Salt Lake City, a quote in regards to that last statement. So after a whole season with practically no storylines and an even worse reunion that has not aired yet, execs seem to be scrambling with the Real Housewives of Salt Lake City, housewives. None of the women have received deals for a 4th season, which was supposed to start filming this month, and has now been pushed to probably February with no specific date. One producer claims Lisa Barlow is the only one who's safe, but she's very difficult to cast around. Seems like a major casting shakeup or a Real Housewives of Dallas style, which they kind of just like push them away. And we don't know when they're coming back. That was like 3 years ago at this point.
Yeah.
No plans to bring back. Announcement is imminent. So
yeah, I have a couple thoughts on this.
Yeah.
Number one, why is Lisa Barlow the one that's safe?
I agree with you on that one. I agree.
I do feel like Heather Gay is kind of like she's the face of the franchise, I think. And even if not Heather, I probably still put Meredith over Lisa Barlow.
Yeah. Lisa sucks. I think we both have come to terms with that. We've never really
been fans of Lisa.
No.
Okay, point number 2 is they bring up scrambling for storylines. I've said this as we've been talking about Jen and the future of her future and the future of the show. And I brought up on our show a couple times saying that, like, I think Bravo's got to be really nervous about the fact of, like, where is this franchise going to go? Jen Shah, hate her or love her, she is like the biggest storyline on the franchise. She was always involved with the drama, always screaming and fighting with everybody, throwing glasses at people. She was every single major fight it involved Jen Shaw. So she's not in the picture anymore. I feel like they're like, oh shit, now what? Got when we first were introduced, these women, Meredith and Seth, were having marital problems. That's no longer the case. Mary Cosby was even controversial. She's not on it anymore. I just feel like if they were to continue as is and just go into the next season, they would be pulling for storylines and almost trying to force situations, which fans are already skeptical about with reality organization is like, are you forcing this like to happen, or is this actually organically happening?
Yeah. And, you know, like you had mentioned earlier, like you said, every franchise is doing this. I don't think Bravo can afford to be scrapping around for a franchise they just brought on 3 seasons ago. Look how bad it looks on them.
They've brought in some pieces, some friends for Salt Lake City who like just they don't like, you can't even promote them to full time.
Right.
They're not even adding anything.
No.
And then point number 3 I want to make, which is just an open question to you, because it was something that I was thinking about earlier that I haven't seen many people discuss. What do you think the future is for the marriage of Jen Shaw and Coach?
So it's interesting that you say that, because I think one of the biggest things that's going to come out in the reunion, apparently in the reunion, they do bring up that they are like on the rocks, that there is like some like trouble in paradise, but she's not there, but the other women bring it up and they are talking about it because they're clearly going to get approached in the reunion about her legal, everything like that. She obviously is not there. Apparently she's going to have to sit down with Andy Cohen. We'll see what brings to that. So yeah.
I mean, she's going away for 6 years, like
6 years. But Katie, if you think about it, every time we've seen her on the show, he's there sometimes for like maybe like big events. But during the week, she always says he's never home because he's at coaching and he's not.
And she was already mad at him for all this before all the legal stuff went down. She was mad because he had missed her father's funeral. But then also with this court case that came up, like, remember when in the 9th hour, like somebody wanted to bring in that they had a whatchamacallit, a restraint in order. Why am I brain farting on the freaking term?
A restraining order.
A restraining order. I'm like, someone had a restraining order against her because the whole story was that Jen reportedly had an affair with this woman's husband. And like recently, and the woman actually texted Coach the receipts, like their text exchange, the husband and Jen Shaw. So these were more marital problems that are just being brought to light. That's why I'm also curious, and I'm also asking, like, if this was someone that like had an affair on him, like, is he going to stand by her while she's in jail for 6 years?
I don't think so.
So that's going to be interesting to see how that plays out.
Yeah.
Oh boy. All right. Well, we did bring this up. This was breaking news as we started our show last week, and we told you we were going to give you more information this week once we got all of it. But we are talking about Shannon Beador's breakup. So as we reported last week, Real Housewives of Orange County, Shannon Beador and John Jansen ended their relationship after 3.5 years of dating. Caitlin, you weren't the only one who felt blindsided by this. Shannon reports being blindsided by the breakup after John ended things in late November. So this didn't just like, it publicly came out this past week, but they did break up at the end of November. And that was just 1 week after filming wrapped on season 17. I do have a quote from Shannon who said, "All I can do is repeat in my head what he said to me while we were filming. We were in a great place, but 7 days later, when the cameras were down, it was a completely different story. He told me he was done with the relationship, and to hear what he said to me then was absolutely devastating." So
I'm shocked. I'm still shocked, Katie, to this day.
We do have a reason for the timing of it all, you know, when the cameras went down. But Beador went on to say that she had never loved anyone more in her life and was hopeful that John was going to be the man she was going to spend the rest of her life with. John explained that once he came to the conclusion that the relationship wasn't forever, he knew he needed to end things, but he also didn't want Shannon to suffer the humiliation of doing it on camera. I get it, but honestly, like,
Dude, you don't drag things
you don't-
on. Oh my God. Okay. I got to be like fully blunt and transparent right now. I've been a part of a relationship where someone drags something on just to not humiliate you or to do something. You do not drag something on and fake something. If you have a feeling about something, you need to tell the individual. Like, it is so much worse because now she's going in her head and she is like reliving every single moment in that time frame.
Right. Like so all of those moments I shared with you were fake. You already knew that you didn't want to be.
Yeah. Like, listen, like I just like, and this is again coming from personal experience. Like, you cannot, if you feel you need to talk to that person. You've been with someone for 3.5 years. Grow a set and talk to someone. I don't give a shit if a camera is rolling for the next feature film, the best next blockbuster, or the Real Housewives of Orange County, or Katie, us right now on our podcast. I do not care what camera is rolling or there is no camera rolling. Yeah. You need to own up. And these are adults. That is terrifying. Like, these are old ass people. Like, that is horrifying that no one changes clearly with age. And clearly this guy is a piece of shit. I'm still mind boggled like by this whole situation. But like when I read that, I was so thrown. Like, get the hell out of here. Like,
listen, I get that she's on television and you were thinking that you didn't want the breakup to be filmed on TV because you didn't want her to be humiliated. Let's just say whether you're on TV or not, it's never great timing for a breakup. Like, no matter what, there's no good timing for it. And I just think like she is in the public eye. So like maybe it wasn't being filmed on camera, but you knew it was going to be a big time story regardless in the media. So it wasn't a good decision on his part. Days after the couple confirmed their breakup publicly, a photo of John and a mystery woman dining at one of his favorite restaurants hit the internet. Again, they did break up at the end of November. I'm not saying it's not like he went out days later and then started dating. So I'm not going to rip his head off for that one.
No.
But the Real Housewives of Orange County season 17 is expected to begin airing sometime in the coming months. So we will see that relationship. And we said it last week, like maybe we will get, a little bit of a glimpse into, oh, that seems off or that didn't seem right. Or we're going to watch them seem lovey-dovey and all this shit. And like you said, we're going to like look back on it and be like, oh, that was fake. That wasn't right. He already knew that he was done with her. Like, so
it'll make me hate him even more. So, ugh. Crazy.
Yes.
All right, well, let's get even crazier, Katie. We're playing our game for this week, and we are doing what we did last week. We'll take you all the way to the Super Bowl at this, but it's the divisional round of the playoffs this week, so we're going to give you our breakdown. We are looking at each matchup. We've got 4 of you this weekend, 4 for you this weekend. We're going to fill in the blanks for our predictions of, how these teams can win, who's going to be the most standout player, and things like that. So let's go ahead and kick it off with Saturday. We've got Kansas City, number 1, versus number 4, Jacksonville. So we'll do these one by one here. So Katie, what do the Chiefs have to do to win this game?
Oh, by the way, I did note this time, and we have it for 2 of these matchups that these teams have previously played. So this is actually one of them. These 2 teams played each other in Week 10, and Kansas City won 27-17.
Very interesting.
That being said, the Chiefs will win if Travis Kelce cooks. Jacksonville's biggest defensive weakness is stopping tight ends. They let up 1,087 receiving yards and 13.1 yards per catch to tight ends this season, which were both 3rd worst in the NFL. This could be a monster day for Travis Kelce.
All right. Well, I say if the Chiefs will win, if they do the magic of picking off Trevor Lawrence, we saw it last week, and you get Patrick Mahomes back on the field.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
All right. The Jags will win if...
The Jaguars will win if they take advantage of an inexperienced Kansas City secondary. And Trevor Lawrence continues to do well in the passing game, but 0 turnovers. So, it takes a lot to come back from 27-0. And that was done through the air off Trevor Lawrence's arms, 4 touchdowns, a 2-point conversion that he got. Have that game, Trevor Lawrence, but you have to have 0 turnovers with it.
Yeah, I literally wrote they will win if he does not throw 4 picks.
Yeah.
Like it's that.
Because he is so capable of scoring points and throwing touchdowns.
But like you just need to understand, like you are blessed that you won that game. Like this is the Kansas City Chiefs. Like
you can't even come back from 27.
You can't even throw one pick, like let alone 4. Like no.
Yeah.
No. All right. The quarterback with the most passing yards will be.
So I'm going to go with Trevor Lawrence. And I'm going with him because I'm going to say that Jacksonville will be trying to play catch up with Kansas City, which will lead to more pass attempts from Trevor Lawrence versus Patrick Mahomes.
All right. I'm going to go with Patrick Mahomes on this one. I think offensively they will have the upper hand in this game.
All right.
All right. The running back with the most rushing yards will be
Travis Etienne.
I'm going with Travis as well. And I think it's mainly because after last week, while Trevor Lawrence did throw 4 touchdowns, I think they're going to kind of be a little weary with him throwing it in the air because of the 4 interceptions as well. So, and if you have a running back of Travis Etienne, get that run game in motion. I think they're going to rely heavily on him this week. So, and I got to tell you, I don't like Kansas City's run game at all. I really don't.
Yeah.
All right. The wide receiver with the most receiving yards will be, and I have an asterisk here.
Asterisk. It's not going to be a wide receiver. It's going to be tight end Travis Kelce.
So we're the back-to-back Travises here. I'm going with Travis Kelce as well. So I didn't pick a tight end at all last week. I know you did, but I think this one is very because even
Travis Kelce, like, come on.
Yeah. And listen, like the Chiefs are impressive offensively, but it's so funny when you peel back the layers and look at the names that, Patrick Mahomes worked with. And at the end of the day, it's Travis Kelce's that main guy.
He's number one. He's number one.
Like across the board. He can run the ball for all we care, and he'll still get there. So, all right. Who do you prefer an MVP in this game?
Travis Kelce.
Yeah, I think it makes sense. I am going to give it to Patrick Mahomes, though, if they do run away with this here.
I think this is going to be 100+ receiving yards and 2 touchdowns from Travis Kelce.
Oh, love that. Mark it, people. Write it down. You got the receipts here live. All right. The final score of the game will be
34-27 Kansas City.
Ooh, you are a lot more generous than me. And I think that this is my biggest point differential. I am going 30-13 Kansas City.
All right, I do have a fun fact for this game. In his 24-year coaching career, Andy Reid is 28-5 coming off a bye, including playoff games. And Patrick Mahomes has a career record of 9-1 off the bye.
Ooh.
Do not want to play the Chiefs after they've rested.
No. And that's impressive because, as much as, I know the Giants haven't been to the playoffs since 2016. But, and I know these teams have been well seasons into it. But I just feel like, I don't know, the more I think about it, that first round bye in the playoffs, do you really, want to strive? I want to, be in it, some teams
I think
are
that
clearly.
Some people, I think we only see 2 things. It's some people strive off of it.
Yeah.
Like Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid. And then you see other teams where it hurts them, where it's no, they just need to keep riding and you know, they can't have that break in between. So we'll see.
All right, let's move to our second Saturday game. We have our other 1 seed, the Philadelphia Eagles, versus the number 6 seed, the New York Giants.
Yeah. And obviously, these division rivals played each other twice this season.
Yep.
Philly won both games by scores of 48-22 in Week 14 and 22-16 in Week 18.
Ugh, I always forget how ugly the first one was. The Eagles will win if
the Eagles are going to win if their defensive pressure keeps Daniel Jones on the ground, meaning they get sacks on him instead of him running down the field. They have to contain Daniel Jones, and they can do that. Philly leads the NFL in sacks. They have 5 guys on their team that have had 10 or more of them this season. So, I mean, that to me is going to be the biggest difference maker.
Yeah, so I'm actually going to keep this on the offensive side for Philly, and this was actually my thought for the Vikings last week, and they did not heed my warning or advice. That's probably why they lost. They need to get up early on the Giants, and I said this for the Vikings last week: 3+ scores early on. That'll be really hard for the Giants to come back, and also too, Jalen Hurts is very capable to spread his points to multiple wide receivers and their tight ends. Like, he can spread the love across that board right there. So that's how I think they'll win. 3+ early on them, and then you got to spread it out to multiple weapons to really keep the Giants on their toes defensively.
Yep.
The Giants will win if
I'm looking at the defensive side of the ball. I think they could win if they shut down AJ Brown, similar to how they shut down Justin Jefferson in the wild card round. And keep in mind, in their Week 14 loss, which was that blowout loss, the Giants were missing 3 key defensive starters in Leonard Williams, Adoree Jackson, and Xavier McKinney. And then, of course, the Giants rested their starters in Week 18 while Philly played their starters. So their defensive stars are going to be difference makers in this third matchup.
Yeah. So honestly, the Giants, if they can just like clone what they did offensively last week,
definitely.
That would be great. But Katie, we spoke so highly of our defense last week going into the game. And I got to tell you, that Xavier McKinney play at the end of the game was really that big standout, that highlight. We needed something so much more, so much bigger earlier in the game.
We needed a key pivotal turnover.
We did. And I'm going to bring that into this week, Katie. And again, it's that key word that I say early. It has to be early because it has to be that momentum driver, or like you said, that pivotal change right for the team. So again, offensively, let's clone it. Let's look like we did last week. But defense, guys, like you said it earlier, this was the first time the offense carried the defense. Let's have a little 50-50 this week.
Yeah.
All right, the quarterback with the most passing yards will be.
I'm going to go with Jalen Hurts.
So am I. I think the weapons around, and that goes back to my first thing on them winning. You know, he's got Devontae Smith, he's got A.J. Brown, he's got Goddard. He could throw to so many people. So I think it's just going to be up in the air for him. Literally. All right, the running back with the most rushing yards will be.
Honestly, I'm going with Saquon Barkley.
So am I.
This could be either one of the quarterbacks. Honestly, Daniel Jones was the leading rusher in that wild card game. At the end of this game, it could be Daniel Jones. It could be Jalen Hurts, but I am going to go with Saquon Barkley.
So this is the one thing I'm super impressed about. I am going Saquon Barkley as well, but I'm so happy you brought up the quarterbacks. Jalen Hurts, you know, he runs the ball as a quarterback like he is almost a tight end. Like, he is like plowing through people, and he's that tall and he's everything like that. Daniel Jones is tall and muscular, but he just kind of like happily trots like out of bounds. Like, he finds his way. He's very fluid. He goes, but Jalen Hurts, like, and I've mentioned this many a times too. Obviously, my boyfriend's an Eagles fan. I'm just like, he just like can really like take down people in his way, and he has no like kind of like nervousness. Like, he just will plow through people, but he gets there. So I think both quarterbacks, I'm really happy that you brought that up, because I think we're going to see a lot of back and forth between the two of them this weekend, and it's going to be.
We didn't even mention that as the key for the win, but like those guys and how well they both run the ball is going to be like a huge factor in this game.
100%. All right. The wide receiver with the most receiving yards will be.
We need redemption. We need redemption for that dropped pass late at the end of the game. I'm going Darius Slayton.
Wow, I love that you picked that. I'm going to go with AJ Brown on this one. I would love for the Giants to lock him down, like you had said earlier. But I think, you know, Jalen to him it makes a lot of sense. And, you know, I think Saquon will be big on the ground for us. Like, I think that'll be, but I think we'll get actually some points on the defensive side in this game as well. So, you know, I think AJ Brown will be a tough one. Yeah. So, all right, the MVP of the game will be
Nickelodeon.
Daniel Jones, the MVP, the Nickelodeon most valuable player.
He'll be the MVP again. I'm going DJ.
Listen, I went defense here. Different from last week. I did pick Dexter Lawrence last week. And hey, Katie, Dexter Lawrence had a hell of a game. Like almost, he had like a 99% like flawless game. I think he made like one error. And it wasn't even like a 1% error. It was like a 0.01% error. Like he had a flawless game last week. I'm actually going to go with the guy who locked the game up from us. And let's see. And what do you do? I'm going to go with Xavier McKinney. You want that big explosive play, Katie, defensively. I think we'll do it. And I think we're going to get some points defensively. I'm going to go with Xavier McKinney on this one as our MVP.
All right. Like it.
All right. And the final score, Katie and I both picked the Giants. So what do you have score-wise?
I got a 2-point difference. I'm going 26-24 Giants.
We're so
people. Hold your breath.
I don't even know. It makes me nervous. I don't know if I want to go to Saturday yet. That's nervous. But yeah, so we are 1 point behind. I'm going 27-24. So it's still.
Oh my God. Okay.
It's right there. It's right there. But
that's funny. All right.
Holy guacs. Holy guacs. Yeah. All right, let's move into Sunday. We've got number 2 Buffalo versus number 3 Cincinnati. And listen, I got to tell you, I think a lot of people are ready for this game. You know, we got the game cut short, unfortunately, a couple weeks back, that Monday night game. Yeah. So we're looking for a real, and this was one of the hardest ones for me to pick, I think, this game. But
what a matchup. I think this is as a football fan, this is probably like your favorite matchup of the week.
And I love that it's the early game too. Hallelujah.
This is a good one. This is a good one.
Give it to me early, people. All right. The Bills will win if
the defense destroys Cincinnati's depleted offensive line and sacks Joe Burrow 5+ times. So over the last 3 weeks, Cincinnati has lost 3 starters on their offensive line, and they're 0-3 this year when Burrow gets sacked 5+ times.
Yeah.
And it sucks because I do feel like Cincinnati's offensive line was absolutely freaking atrocious last year. I do feel like they improved somewhat this season, and to lose key starters on your line going into this game, it's like, what are you supposed to do? But
right.
I mean, Buffalo, what they're supposed to do is they have to take advantage of that, and they have to get Burrow on his ass.
Absolutely. And I think so as well. I think the Bills got to get up really early, 2+ scores here. I'm thinking early, and then 1 defensive play. So like you had said, if that defensive play is getting on, Joe Burrow from a sack interception standpoint, I think that's what, really will seal it up for the Bills here.
All right.
The Bengals will win.
I'm going to say their defense as well. So if their defense gets a key turnover off Josh Allen, they're going to get a win. Allen has actually thrown for 16 interceptions.
He is pickable. He is so pickable.
He's thrown for 16 picks and lost 6 fumbles this season. Yeah. Those 22 turnovers are the most by any quarterback in the league this year.
Yeah.
Cincinnati, obviously Buffalo's got such a firepower offense, but you can and need to get turnovers off of Josh Allen.
I had mentioned this earlier that the Bills showed us last week that they've got some holes. They've got some hiccups. And it's kind of a shame to say that a lot of it is with Josh Allen. He is pickable. He is fumbling. We are seeing some things here. Listen, I'm going to say, and that's how I agree with you, you got to pick off Josh Allen. But guess what the Bengals need to do? If they get a pick, they got to score on that next drive. It's not a pick and it's out. They got to score immediately on those drives. They're going to be behind in points a lot this game, and they need to take advantage.
I don't know. We'll see.
All right. The quarterback with the most passing yards will be.
I am going to go with Josh Allen.
I am as well. The running back with the most rushing yards will be.
Joe Mixon.
I'm going with Joe Mixon as well. And it's the point that you made earlier that this offensive line for the Bengals, and how the hell are we entering a season 2 of Joe Burrow having a shitty ass offensive line? They are depleted, like you absolutely said. So they gotta work on that run game. And they really I don't know how much time.
I don't like Buffalo's run game. I just don't.
Oh, I don't like that either. But I'm just saying, I think that, the Bengals are really going to have to rely on it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
The wide receiver with the most receiving yards will be.
Vibes, gut feeling, Gabe Davis.
I like that. I'm going to be very obvious here with Stefan Diggs. And I think that I really liked he had 100 plus with Josh Allen last week.
So did Gabe Davis.
I
Watch
know.
out now.
That's what I was going to say. The interesting thing is that, prior to last week, though, Stefan Diggs was kind of like in like the mid range. Like he wasn't throwing up big numbers, but is it that playoff spark that's going to get him and Josh Allen to vibe? I really do. I like your pick though, but I was pretty basic with Stefan Diggs there. All right. The MVP of this game will be.
I'm going to say Josh Allen.
Me too. I think that's a kind of a given if. Yeah. And then the final score, what are you thinking here?
This is a close one for me. I'm going 31-28 Buffalo.
All right. I am going 30-21 Buffalo.
Ooh. My fun fact for this game, Joe Burrow has never lost in the month of January and is 6-0 in his career.
Oh my God.
Gonna be 6-1. I'm sorry, Joe.
Well, we will see. That was a tough one for me to pick, but All right, moving into Sunday night to wrap up the weekend for us. We have number 2 San Francisco versus number 5 Dallas. The Niners will win if
the Niners are going to win if Nick Bosa and company force turnovers off Dak Prescott. And I know I sound like a broken record of like defense has to cause turnovers. Defense has to cause turnovers. But the defense for the freaking 49ers is just
hot.
So scary. And they need to just take it to them. The defense, I believe, will win the game for the 49ers.
Yeah, I don't think you sound like a broken record because I think you see a trend with us. I actually think this weekend we're going to see the most defensive play in every single game. Like we are going to see some magic happen across the board defensively. Because I say the same thing. Niners going to win 3+ picks on Dak Prescott and 3 sacks on Dak Prescott. That is a 6 turnover or 6 defensive play marker there, and I think they can do it. I think the Niners are literally the scariest defense in the NFL, and I want to win this weekend, but I don't know if I want to go up against them next week. So that's all I have to say about that. The Cowboys will win if.
I'm still looking at the defense, and I like I said, I'm glad we got that question earlier in the show because the Cowboys will win if their pass rush gets the better of Brock Purdy. And I noted that I think this is Purdy's biggest test that he will face yet. This is the best defense he's playing against so far.
Yeah. I'm going to be an asshole here, and I'm going to say that they make their extra points. So because, sorry, you literally cannot miss those against a team like the Dallas Cowboys. So,
okay. Yeah.
Sorry, not sorry, but I don't know how you advance in the playoffs and missed that many. But
yeah,
sucks to suck. All right, the quarterback with the most passing yards will be.
I think it's going to be Dak Prescott.
I went with Dak as well. The running back with the most rushing yards will be
Christian McCaffrey.
Very similar. I went with Christian, obviously, McCaffrey as well. The wide receiver with the most receiving yards will be.
A lot of names to pick on both of these teams, both sides.
Yeah.
But I'm going to go with San Fran's Brandon Ayuk.
Yeah, I love Brandon Ayuk. I think we spoke about him a lot last week as well. I just think with, Dak up in the air, passing a lot, I'm going to go with CeeDee Lamb on this one.
Okay.
MVP of the game.
This was your MVP pick last week. I'm going with him this week. I will say Nick Bosa.
I love it. I'm actually going to go with Christian McCaffrey on this one. I think they're really going to move him. And we saw it last week. And I think we're going to see it even more this weekend.
All right.
The final score of the game will be.
This is my lowest one. I've got this final score 24-20 San Fran.
Yeah, I think this is my tightest one, actually. Oh, no, it's I'm still in I think the Giants and Eagles
are 3 points on the Giants and Philly.
I have 3 points here as well, which is interesting because I always love for the Niners to blow out the Cowboys.
Yeah.
But if you really peel back the layers, this could statistically happen for sure. I'm going with 30-27 San Francisco.
Okay.
So I got to tell you, I really raised up my scores this week based off of last weekend. We were very conservative with our scores last week. I feel like in the 20 range and like things like that. I think one game we each had like 30 points, but we had some scores last week. So I definitely looked back at it and I was like, all right, maybe we should up these a little bit. So.
Yeah. Well, my last fun fact, by the way, for this for these divisional round games and for the San Fran Dallas game in particular, only 4 rookie quarterbacks have ever made it to the conference title game. So that's what Brock Purdy's trying to be the 5th. And if you're wondering who those 4 are, we've got Sean King, Ben Roethlisberger, Joe Flacco, and Mr. Butt Fumble himself, Mark.
No. Katie, I gotta tell you, I never in a million years would I have guessed fucking Mark Sanchez.
He went to those back-to-back AFC.
I know. Well, like
it's crazy. It's crazy to believe that happened in our lifetime. That was actually a thing where the Jets made back-to-back AFC championship title games with Mark just in general, but then also with Mark Sanchez. It sounds crazy, but these are things that actually happened in the history of the National Football League.
Like real life things that have happened. Crazy.
And with that, she needs to take a drink.
Because I can't believe it. I mean, stranger things. Like, honestly, I'm even more confident about the Giants this weekend now that you said that. So.
All right. Well, it is that point in the night where we are going to get it off our chest. Positive, negative football, housewives, life, wine, playoffs. Talking about playoffs. Maybe. I don't know. Caitlin, what do you got for us? I think, but we're basically the same. We discussed it before the show and we were on par with each other.
We are talking about playoffs. We are talking about the New York Giants the last weekend against the Minnesota Vikings. We're near the end of the game. The game is tied. And what happens? Are we shocked about this? No. A roughing the passer gets called against Dexter Lawrence against Kirk Cousins. And Katie, I got to tell you, one of the worst roughing the passer calls I've seen in the last 2 years when they've been so crazy about them. You see the viral videos on social media where they're making fun of them, where they're picking up people and placing them on pillows and they're like, this is roughing the passer, like things like that. I got to tell you, Katie, it was at the point of the game, we're tied and we're nearing the end of the game. It was so it could have cost the New York Giants
a great defensive stop that gets taken away.
And it was, and they're on their own, they're like in the 10, they were so close to the end zone. That could have been a friggin' safety for all we know. I just remember him taking him down, being so excited, and then my mood just completely shifted for that call. Katie, I've never been angrier. When I
was devastated by that call because I just knew that if the game turned one way and we lost, I wouldn't be able to get that play out of my head for a very long time.
No, I spewed off every curse word I think I know in a matter of 5 seconds. I'm not surprised that my neighbors did not call the police because it was like this anger rose up outside it, like that I've never been this angry in my life. In my 31 years of living, I've never been this angry because the game was on the line. The Giants are in the playoffs for X amount of years. We're there, we're getting it. And a clean play is about to turn against us. And fortunately it did not. But I'm thinking about it and it frustrates me. Roger Goodell is at the game. And I'm like, you know what? Screw you. Finally see the shit that you've put into place, that these are the refs that you have chosen, that your organization has chosen. And this is what it's become. It's just at this point, and we can all cry wolf for our organizations and our teams that we root for. But Katie, I've been shitting on these roughing the passer calls this entire season. So this is the first time I'm standing up for the New York Giants, my own team. I've been standing up for every other team this whole season.
Me too. I feel like there are many Sundays when I'm watching football and I see one of those calls get made and I see the replay, and whether it's the Giants or not, it could be anybody. I'm usually sitting in bed being like, what? Like, how is that? Like, no, absolutely not. It's tough. And like, I get it. They're trying to make the game safer, and like, shit, like look at the other side of the coin here. Like, I just can't not think about Tua Tagovailoa.
No, of course.
And, you know, this is a guy who people are like, maybe he should just retire because the amount of concussions he's had in such a short period of time, that could kill somebody, like, honestly. So it's so tough. The refs just, they got to get better with it, though. I mean, they really do. And I said this to you before the show. I said there are also the times when I've seen them make the call, and to me, it is blatantly obvious. Yes, that is a roughing the passer. I see that they're almost.
That's why it's a call.
I feel like it's like a D end and a quarterback are almost like paused, standing up, like, okay, I got you, but then the defender still slams the body of the quarterback onto the ground when the play is basically like halted and almost basically done. Right. Then I get it. But my God, like I said it to you and I said it a couple of times. I felt like Dexter Lawrence, like freaking read Kirk Cousins a bedtime story, like gave him a glass of milk, like put his blankie on him and like tucked him in for the night. Like that is how gentle and soft this sack was.
And I feel like Dexter Lawrence like is like a gentle giant. Like you do not want him
there. He read you the bedtime story. Yeah. He gave you your blankie and he tucked you in.
And like Kirk, like that sounds phenomenal. Like you want to know what my bedtime routine is? Like brushing my teeth, doing my skincare, and hopping into bed. No one reads me a bedtime story. No one gives me a glass of warm milk. Like I'm just going to bed without any of that. And you were literally just like I don't like.
That's how I felt watching that. I was like, he couldn't have put him down more gently. Like, I don't understand.
I know. And like, honestly, like big hats off to like Dexter Lawrence. So obviously they had their media day after the win. They're talking in the locker room, but they actually didn't see a lot of locker room interviews. It was a couple of days later. You know, they asked him clearly about that because it was a monumental. We talked about we wanted a defensive monumental shift. This was not the shift that we freaking wanted in the game. No. So every reporter is asking him, and hats off to him. He was so professional. Not once did he dig at the refs or any call that was made against him. He just said, listen, like the call was made. He goes, but I got to tell you guys, like, I just don't know how to tackle a quarterback any other way. And that's what he said. He's like, at this point, like, I just don't. And I feel like that's what we're getting with a lot of defensive players. They're just struggling to find out. This is going to sound very like intense, but like their place on the field. Like, what are they supposed to do? It's
just a question of how would you like me to do my job then?
And that's how basically Dexter Lawrence had responded to it. Like, I just don't know what else to do at this point. I don't know how else I could possibly do that and things like that. So, and I think it's a real statement. So props off to him because he could have been like, F you, F that, like worst call ever. Like me when the call happens, like almost ripped my TV out of almost. And I gotta tell you too, like I'm not being dramatic. Like I probably like I don't know if I could have watched the rest of the play. Like I was so angry. And if that really turned it for the Giants and we ended up losing because of that, that's tough, Katie.
Yeah. It would have been very, very, very difficult.
That's tough. But I swear to God, if anything happens like that against the Eagles, the TV will come off the wall. And it's not attached to the wall, but it will come off the little stand that it's on. And I will,
oh God.
But yeah, I mean, it just gets to a point, you know, we've both have been defending every other team this season. So when it comes down to us this last week, it just hit so much harder and you're just, So figure it out, NFL. Figure it out, Roger Goodell. That's all we got to say.
Yeah. Yep.
All right. Well, thank you guys so much, as always, for joining us for this episode of the Real Football Fans of the New Jersey. We are stoked to go into the divisional round. But tonight you have Real Housewives of Salt Lake City at 8 p.m. Obviously, you're watching us. So you catch that later. And Potomac is on Sundays at 8 p.m. The divisional round, Saturday, Jacksonville, Kansas City at 4:30. The New York Giants are at Philadelphia at 8:15. I'm going to need an espresso martini before that game because I'm going to need
no sleeping,
caffeine, and a little liquor to get me excited for that game. So I think espresso martinis on Saturday night. Okay. I will not fall asleep. And then Sunday, we have Cincinnati at Buffalo at 3 p.m. and Dallas at San Francisco at 6:30. Hallelujah to that 6:30 game. Then it's over, and then I'll go to bed after that. But
great lineup.
We do. We've got a great lineup, and we cannot wait to talk to you guys next week. Let's hopefully it's a good
Maybe
talk.
I don't want to talk to the people next week.
Listen.
Maybe I don't want to show up for you guys on Wednesday. Depends how my weekend goes.
Well, I said it last week when we were on Big Blue Avenue. I said, let's hopefully the four of us get together and maybe we have like a 3-day long hangover. Maybe let's hope for that again this week. By next Wednesday, we are either going to have, 0 voices of happiness, a 4-day bender. Who knows what's going on? But we've made it this far, Katie, and we're so excited. And I couldn't be prouder of this team, but we'll move in. Who would have thunk that we'd be here this far? So we're here, though, and let's make the most out of it.
Yes.
All right. Well, thank you guys, as always, for joining us for this episode. We will catch you next week, and let's go Giants.
Go G-Men.
Let's go.